right, cool. So, welcome YouTube. Welcome everybody on Discord. So, I was just telling Discord here that David isn't here yet, and that's okay. He's gonna be a little late, but when he gets here, I'm gonna have him hop on stage here. So, what we're doing here, what I'm doing here, and what David will be doing here when he gets here, is we're doing a little street epistemology. So, street epistemology is I'll tell you what it isn't, and I'll tell you what it is. It's not a debate. I'm not here to argue any points. I'm not here to present evidence. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. I am just here to talk about what you believe, what you think is true, what's important to you, what you would like others to believe also. And we'll have a conversation about it and see how you've come to your conclusion, talk about the reasons. And it's usually a nice time. It's usually a nice, interesting conversation. So the way this works is you can click on the little hand button. I can bring you up on stage, and we can talk about it. So if there's any takers, go ahead, raise your hand. I'll bring you up on stage. See, there's a lot of people joining, so that is great to see. All right, we got. Oh, did I do that right? Hey, how's it going on? What's going on, Quid?
Hey, Pierce, what's up?
Not too
All right.
much. Just doing a call-in show, you know.
Oh yeah, I know about that. Yeah, I was just gonna start a conversation. If somebody else has something else, that's fine, but it's something we've been talking about, so I thought I would introduce it. So an idea that I've been having recently is, I guess the way that I would phrase it shortly is that we should trust expert consensus in the soft sciences and humanities. That's the claim.
Okay. We should trust experts in soft sciences. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, and the humanities. We should trust expert
Humanities.
consensus. Sorry, just to clarify, it's expert consensus is
Okay.
the important part.
Okay. Cool. We should trust expert consensus. And is this for all claims or just certain claims?
Ones where there's consensus, so claims where that they're just kind of made in the field. No, it would be ones where they kind of all agree that the claim is true and it's relevant to their field.
Okay. And okay, expert consensus. Got it. And why should we rely on expert consensus?
Because the way that they build knowledge, as far as I currently understand, seems to be a reliable way to build knowledge, and they seem to be following that out faithfully. And I don't know of any sufficient data or studies indicating that those fields are somehow more untrustworthy or something like that. Even though I acknowledge that you're more likely to be biased or something like that, obviously these things are true, but.
Gotcha. Okay. Can an expert consensus ever be incorrect? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
Okay. And how could we find that out if an expert consensus was incorrect? How could we know?
I think the main way, realistically, and the way that it usually happens is that the field figures it out through studies. Like they conduct the studies that end up changing the consensus.
Like self-correcting, kind of?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. What could you learn that could change your mind on this?
I would say some type of large scale study where there was some type of literature review of credible papers in the social sciences and the humanities that showed that they were abiding by knowledge building principles that were largely unreliable or were used in other kind of groups or organizations that I disagree with the conclusions that they're reaching. Is that clear? Sorry.
I think so. I think I got where you're coming from. Okay.
Okay.
I see some other people with their hands up, so I
Yes.
think I'll bring someone else up. But I appreciate you, starting us off and kind of showing everybody what kind of conversation we're looking to have here tonight.
Yeah,
So
thanks,
thank you,
Pierce.
Quid.
Hope David's here soon.
I hope so too.
All right. See ya.
All right. See ya. There's my key for that. Okay. All right. Who are we bringing up next? I have no idea who had their hand up first. I'm gonna guess that it was maybe this John guy. So I'm gonna bring you up on stage. I apologize if I'm out of order here, but yeah, I don't really know.
Hello,
Hello
sir.
there. How are you doing?
Hey. I'm doing very well.
Excellent. And I think I just realized that there might be an issue. I'm just going to take one brief moment and make sure that everything is working how it's supposed to. And I actually do think that it's working. Okay, sorry about that. So, John, how did you find this event?
Well, I was sort of traversing the interface, and I just sort of saw that this was an event that was fairly popular among the server. So that sort of just caused me to form some sort of interest to join.
Cool. And what brought you specifically up on stage to have a chat?
Well, I mean, so I guess just to be clear, I find myself very enamored with sort of theories of knowledge. And I find that knowledge, as it sort of exists in a strict sense, it's going to be in part, or as someone might more strongly say, in whole, on the obtaining of certain requisite transcendental categories that are going to refurbish sort of the necessary conceptual groundwork for establishing certain propositions. Now, okay, so I mean that gets into a few things. So it gets into epistemological determinism, gets into causal anti-realism, but I'm sure we can sort of traverse all that.
Okay, sure. Of those kind of thoughts and ideas, is there one that stands out as more important to you?
Yeah, I think epistemological determinism is quite important to me.
Okay. And what does that mean to you?
Right. So I'll start with an example. So when you see, say, like an ice cream sundae, and you sort of perceive that it's desirable.
Yeah, I like ice cream. I'm with you so far.
Yeah. So so that's going to be sort of explained by certain facts that you could stipulate, such as there being some sort of external value property that's going to be possessed by the sundae, that the agent utilizing their intentional states is sort of going to project that onto the world, and then using Quine's sort of indeterminacy thesis about language, we could sort of begin to tie it into presentism as not as a thesis in physics, but as actually a thesis in metaphysics more broadly. And that would lead to certain prerequisite necessary conditions for experience needing to be set in place. And you can sort of view language as being right, rather than language being something in itself, which sort of, I guess, makes the contrast between the phenomena and the noumena quite sharp rather than vague, right? And I think I take vagueness very seriously. I think vagueness is not merely semantic, but I think it's metaphysical, and I think it's a character or a characteristic of, I guess, certain dispositional facts about how agents deploy terms.
Okay. I am not gonna lie. Some of what you said I did not really understand. One thing I heard that I found relatively interesting was vagueness is metaphysical. Can you explain
That's
that? That's really interesting.
Right. So there's going to be certain terms that are going to be embedded in our natural language, right? So those are going to be terms like, for instance, just take the term red. Now it might be vague when something becomes red. There might be some vague boundary between, say, when something counts as orange, and when something counts as red. And the semantic content of those sorts of terms are going to be furnished, right, by certain relevant facts that are going to be obtaining, right, in the external world. But external world skepticism specifically, denies any sort of metaphysical commitment. So that's where I sort of step away, because I think that, as Kant has shown, Agrippa's trilemma is going to be entirely unsuccessful in demonstrating the truth of any thesis regarding, metaphysical skepticism, at least of the relevant kind. So given all that, since Kant sort of destroyed Agrippa, right, so to speak, that would give us a reason to think that vagueness is metaphysical, right? We know this.
Okay. If someone was to disagree with you, what do you think their argument, or what do you think they would say?
So I think they might appeal. Okay, so Muthuswami is a sort of philosopher that, he's an Indian philosopher from around the 1980s, and he had a principle that had to do with various sets that, sort of nomological dispositions can possess, where that, set specifically is going to be an infinite conjunctive set, not a disjunctive one. And, so that sort of thing could lead someone to think that vagueness is going to be something that's not going to be thought of as something metaphysical, but they might think that vagueness has to do with conjunctive sets, and they might think that conjunctive sets, like any metaphysical status, right? Because they might just be, sort of a deflationary realist about sets, at least in the relevant sense that's sort of restricted to this particular domain. But that criticism it's sort of a meme in the philosophy community. It's sort of unsuccessful, and the reason that criticism is unsuccessful was actually proved by George Gruger, and he actually sort of constructed a mathematical principle that's sort of known as Gruger's injunction. And essentially, what Gruger's injunction is saying is that sets of nomological dispositions aren't conjunctive, right? Because if that was true, that would just lead to explosion. In fact, rather they're going to be something that's sort of disjunctive, such that you're avoiding explosion. And obviously, if you don't avoid explosion, you sort of get concerns regarding logical trivialism. I don't know. Did you understand that? Did that make sense?
I understood about 50% of it, maybe, to be honest. And I think the people in the chat are kind of in the same boat as me. I think, from what I'm reading. I appreciate you coming up here, John. But I think that we're probably on different levels here. So I think it's best to probably bring someone else up. If you want to talk about something else after, I'd be more than happy to bring you back up on
Right.
stage.
And just as a final comment,
Sure.
I think you're a
Go ahead.
liar.
Oh. Okay then. That wasn't nice. But anyways, we will bring up who's ever next, Taylor. All right, he says that this guy is next. Hey, all right. Hey, how's it going?
Howdy do. Just for the sake of brevity. Hello. So
Hello.
I wanted to put something forward to make, say, the FCC or in our case over here in Blighty, Ofcom, to give them to basically force news channels and news shows and stuff like that to make sure, and applies to radio as well, to have an identifier on. Okay, I'll separate this because I've just realised what I've said in my head. Sorry, genuinely autistic. So if I'm not making sense or need to clarify, please tell me.
I'm with you so far.
So with TV, when there are shows that are, let's say, like commentary, for example, or not the news, like let's say, over here we have something called on Fox, where they're all just sitting around a table talking about talking about the current state of the news, but they don't actually tell you the news. Stuff like that needs to be made clearer, because a lot of people seem to be taking it as the news. We have it over here as well, and it's getting irritating how people can't differentiate between the news and news commentary. Like we have it, and with radio, I want there to be a thing where if I'm not listening to I don't know, XF or whatever, FM or whatever. I want them to make, and this applies to TV as well, all news bulletins, that be it every quarter of an hour, every half hour, whatever, force them to be unbiased to the point where if I'm listening to the radio, for example, and let's say, I mean, over here we had London Bridge, right? We had the big London Bridge attack. If I am driving in the area, I want to know if London Bridge is safe. I don't give a monkey's toss what the presenter's opinions are. I want to know, can I go to the area? Is the area cordoned off? Like, if they're going to make their predictions or whatever, that's fine. Well, not fine, but you know what I mean. But if I'm listening to a news bulletin, I want to know what's going on. I don't want things muddied, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And it does annoy me thus far that nothing's been done to do that. Like, after that, this isn't to take away anyone's news bias or whatever. If you're a right-wing channel, go right ahead. I don't care. If you're a left-wing, the information part, and you don't want a political opinion.
Okay.
I hope that makes all sense. I hope that all makes sense.
I think so. Let me try to repeat back what I think I'm hearing, and then you can tell me if I've got it right. So I think what you're saying is that when you watch the TV, what would you would like them to only be able to present facts and not have them have the ability to present opinions. Is that what I'm hearing?
No. No, I'm talking about news bulletins. So at the top of the hour, so you don't want you're at the top of the hour when they say this is the news, or
sure.
if you're listening to that sort of thing. So not when they're doing, not later on when it's more commentary or more in depth, when they're trying to give you everything rather quickly.
Okay, I gotcha. We're on the same page now. So during these bulletins, you would like them only to display facts and keep opinions out of them.
Pretty much, yeah. And then when they go into everything else, then you can have your opinion. But like I said, for example, as I said, London Bridge being an example, or the Ariana Grande concert. If I was driving in the area in that part of Manchester and I only just hear this has happened, I want to know, can I drive in there? Is it safe? I don't care for the finer details at that point. Well, I do, but you know what I mean. I don't care about the finer details at that stage. I just want to know, is it safe? Can I go there? Or should I be pulling away to go somewhere?
Gotcha.
Should I take a detour to avoid a massive problem?
Okay. And with regards to this desire to only have, the facts, does it apply to all types of news, or is it only specific types that relate to safety?
No. When I say facts, no. When I say facts, what I mean is commentary. There's shows where there are commentary, and there's like as I said, for example, Fox is a good example of people sitting around a table saying, "We're going to just talk about what we've seen in the papers" or something like that. Whereas, and the actual news. Like, for example, over here we have a thing called Question Time, where you've got 6 people sitting around a table, and they are asked questions by the public. Now, this isn't the news, but a lot of people take it as the news because there are politicians there. And it's one of those things where the everything is like, what's the best way to put it? I think that separating, at least having some sort of identifier to make it clear to people that this isn't the news, it's just a commentary show, it's just a commentary or people talking about it, would make life a lot easier than people assuming that it is a news reporter saying this has happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from. So you want only the facts as you described on these news bulletins. You don't want any of these opinions or the finer details.
Yeah.
And I believe the reason that you would want this is because you want to consume the information as quickly as possible. Therefore, for example, you gave the traffic thing. You want to know if it's safe or convenient to travel to a certain area. So it's kind of like you just want quick information and without all the fluff.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And then it makes things a hell of a lot. It makes things a lot easier than having to wait 20 minutes while they're waffling on.
Okay. And what kind of belief or claim is this? Is this more of an opinion, or is this something that everybody should agree on and is more of a factual thing, or a where
I don't
do you
understand.
stand on there? So
I don't understand the question.
okay, let me try to rephrase. I'd like to be as clear as I can. Is this an opinion that you have? Is this your opinion or a preference?
This is my preference because I found a lot of the time things, as I said, we've had this before where, like over here, we have GB News where you have people sitting around a desk or just talking about things, and it is taken as the news. Like I said, like Fox is another good example, and people need to at least. I think a lot of people, and I don't mean it to sound condescending, but it's the reality. A lot of people can't seem to tell the difference between news commentary, where it's just people talking about the day's events or what's in the papers, to a person sitting at to a person actually reporting the news as it is happening, which I think are two very separate situations, or two very different shows, if that makes sense.
I hear you. So I
don't.
think,
Sorry, please continue.
I think what I'm kind of hearing, I'm going to try to repeat back a little bit more of what I'm hearing. So you're kind of observing that some of these news bulletins, are putting a little too much fluff in what they're displaying, and it sounds like you're really frustrated, and you kind of have this need for this information to be digestible, and you probably would want to request that they keep it brief and factual.
Pretty much. Like, it's
Fair enough.
It's not. But I want to make it clear just off the bat. This isn't to stop them having an opinion, or if like in the States, I know there is different channels have different political biases. That's not taking that away from them. They can still have that. It's just not when you are getting everything at the top of the hour, where everything is the most, where you're getting like everything given to you within 30 seconds.
Okay. All right. I don't think I have any. Oh, I'm sorry.
I said I hope that all makes sense.
I think so, and I think I understand exactly where you're coming from. I think I agree with you. I think that's a fair request. I think that's reasonable. But yeah, I don't think I have any more questions for you. I really appreciate you coming up.
Not a problem. I mean, I'm happy to hold on. Sorry, I just noticed something from Likely Spammer just to reply to. Okay, Likely Spammer, what do you mean by they are? Could you be more specific? Sorry, I don't mean to thingy pierce. I just want to know what the guys.
Yeah.
I just want to know what they're saying.
It's all right. I will actually just let you go in the comment section, and you guys can discuss it there.
That's fine.
But yeah, appreciate
Thank
you coming
very
up.
much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on. Taylor is telling me who is next. And Rolodex is next. So I'm going to invite you up on stage. Hello there.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Doing good. How are you, man?
Doing fantastic. How'd you come across the show here?
Yeah, I was just sort of, traversing the interface, like the last guy said, and sort of came across, this.
Okay, cool. And so what made you wanna come up on stage?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It may have
Okay,
cut
I think
out
I
for
cut
a
out
moment,
there.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we cut out there.
So what brought you up on stage here?
Yeah, I was just sort of wondering what your general goals for this stage were.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, so there's a few things that I want to do. I think my main priority would be to have people reflect on what they think is true. I don't really care to change people's minds. I would just like them to think about the reasons that they have for whatever they think is true. A secondary goal would be just to simply understand people's perspectives. I want to learn as much as I can while I'm here, you know? And maybe third, just connecting with people. I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, so if I track that correctly, it was one, understanding the reasons in which somebody sort of arrives at a conclusion, and two was this sort of idea of picking apart and interacting with those given propositions. Now, the third one was to sort of form these bonds, I guess is a better way to describe it. Now, I guess I would just like to kick things off with my definition, right? And my definition, index to what it means for something to be irrational. Now, I think that something, or in order for somebody to meet the standard of being irrational, is for them to have a set of goals and do things that sort of don't align with those goals, in pursuit of achieving that goal. Now, if you can sort of, collect your loose cloud of thoughts and think back about 5 minutes when you were sort of interacting with the propositional Rolodex with John right earlier, he was sort of laying out his positions on a plethora of matters, one of which being these sort of higher level theories that have these sort of modal notions and deontic modalities such that, we can sort of have this irreducible normativity. And it didn't seem like you even cared. You didn't even interact with that proposition. So my question to you is, if those three things were your goals, I'm not sure why you wouldn't deliver, right, a good sort of at least attempt to get to those goals. You just sort of kicked them off and ran away when you did so. So I just sort of want to know your justification for that there.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point. If I'm being 100% honest, I wasn't that interested in the claim. Like, I didn't understand it, which I mean, I do want to understand people. I think it was so far over my head that I don't think I was going to be able to grasp it. And because of that, it's rather dull to me personally.
What do you mean by you wouldn't be able to grasp it?
I didn't really understood some of what he was talking about, but most of it I didn't understand.
Right. And so one of the things that you did, or rather did not do, is actually ask any clarifying claims or anything to disambiguate what he was saying. So I'm not sure how you can claim that one of your goals is to sort of actually pursue what somebody's belief is on a matter and not ask any clarifying or disambiguating questions. That's just not clear to me.
That's fair. Do you think someone can have a goal and fail at that goal?
So I absolutely agree with that. And the reason I brought up what it means for somebody to be irrational, this wouldn't qualify as being irrational. What you just said wouldn't actually qualify as being irrational. But the actions that you partook in earlier actually did, because you didn't do anything whatsoever to pursue those said goals.
I think that's a fair criticism. I can agree with that.
Right. So would it be fair for me to say that you're just this sort of liar when it comes to your belief states, when it comes to your goals, and when it comes to these sort of disingenuous bad faith actors that you don't want to engage with? It seemed like you took him to be a disingenuous bad faith actor, or at least that's how you wrote him off.
I didn't think of him that way. I think it was very genuine. I didn't understand him. So you've kind of made this observation that I did take him out. Well, I think he went off stage himself, but I did say I was going to remove him from the stage. And you sound rather frustrated, that I had removed him from the stage. I guess I'm just wondering, why this frustration?
So that's actually going to be what I classify to be a sort of loaded question. So you made a claim, right? And then you loaded that claim in the question that you asked me. Right now, this would be analogous to me asking you, when did you stop beating your wife? Well, that assumes, a plethora of propositions that you probably wouldn't agree with, would you? Now, again, I would just want a sound argument that you can deliver that sort of establishes the conclusion, right, that I'm upset right now.
I think I said you were frustrated, or I thought you were frustrated. If you're not, feel free to let me know that you're not.
So, do you think that would come in the form of an answer to my question?
I'm just trying to figure out where you're at.
Okay, so do you think that just came in the form to the question of an answer to the question that I just asked you?
At this point, I'm not sure I remember the question, but I do want to remind you
Okay,
that
so
this
you
is a Street
dodged so hard
Epistemology.
that you actually forgot what the original question was? Is that what you're telling me right now? That you sort of slithered away and obfuscated off the point so hard that you don't even know where you're at right now? You pivoted so hard that you didn't know where you ended up? That's what you're telling me right now?
I want to remind you that this is the Street Epistemology call-in show, not the debate show. So I'm not up here to do a debate.
Do you want to say
That's
another,
not
like
what
a
I do.
random detached statement that has nothing to do with the conversation right now?
Well, I had to move him to the audience. I'm sorry I had to do that. I wish we could have had a cordial conversation. That is one of my things that we're trying to do here. And I've never actually really kicked anyone off stage like that before, and I've done quite a few shows here. But I think that was probably the best choice for right now. We got Taylor, who's in the chat here. Sapper Aud. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But I'm gonna see who is next. And I think that's some hobo. So I'm gonna invite you up on stage here. There you are. How's it going?
Hey, Pierce, just want to thank you for letting me up. And thanks for, or sorry that guy was so rude to you a second ago.
Yeah, it's kind of expected. I mean, we're on Discord in the politics server. You gotta have a little tough skin, I suppose.
Yeah, I was just telling Sushi on guys for doing these shows because I know it's I've dabbled in epistemology myself. I know it's a really hard thing to do. Yeah, nobody's perfect. So I guess the last time I was on your show, I brought up the point that atheists existing is a good thing.
Yeah.
You made a comment. Yeah, you made a comment that was interesting. I was wondering if you wanted to explore that one.
I think it was actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I could remember wrong. My memory nowadays is not the best. But I thought it was that people should be atheists.
Oh, well, I may have worded it that way, but I don't.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay. What is it that you wanna? How would you word it?
I worded it. I think that atheists existing is a good thing.
Maybe it was that. I don't know. I don't remember. But we'll go with atheists existing is a good thing. Okay, cool. How confident are you that that's the case?
Today it's shifted. I'd say it shifted from about 80 to maybe down to about 60% confident.
Okay. At a previous time, you were more confident?
Yeah, because, well, I was going at the angle of I think we're here on this planet or in existence to experience. Well, part of the life is to experience. And I think it's a good thing that we have a bunch of people with different views, and that includes atheism. So that was where I was like, it's a good thing. But then where my confidence dropped was I don't have enough experience to know how atheism affects people's lives. I don't know if atheists I don't know. I don't know if like if atheists are just as likely to succeed as theists are, or if atheists are happier, less happy. I don't know.
So that dropped you from, I think you said like 80% or something down to 60?
Yeah.
Okay. And what gets you, I think you said like something about there should be people should, like, you want a diverse group of people or something along those lines? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
That's what
think
gets you to 60?
yes. That we need people with different views, and I think I was an atheist for 2 years, and I actually think atheism brought me closer to God. And I think,
Mm,
and I mean, here's the funny thing: like the person who makes me think about God the most is actually an atheist, and that's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I like that guy.
I know, like he's so good at explaining the universe.
He says some pretty interesting things. You can learn a lot from that guy.
Oh yeah,
Okay. So you're kind of struggling with, on one side of this, like balancing, confidence balance, I guess you could say, is like, on one side, you have like, you know, you're not sure how likely atheists or theists are to have success in life, I think you were saying. And
yeah. I
then
mean,
on the
yeah,
other
and
side, go ahead.
just to clarify, for all I know, atheists could be more likely to succeed. I just don't have the information.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So kind of an unknown on this side. Are they more likely, less likely? Nobody knows. And then that's kind of balancing against, diversity and probably your
Yeah,
desire to have a diverse community. Is that kind of what you're saying?
yeah. I think diversity is good, because I mean, we all know like about sound chambers and things.
Echo chambers. Is that what you meant? I'm not getting audio from you. You're talking, but I can't hear you. Is it just me? Hey, chat. Can you guys hear him? Okay. I'm assuming there's some sort of bad connection. Okay, I'm gonna put you to the audience at least momentarily, but I'd like to continue this conversation. So, after the next caller, we'll try again, maybe. Okay. Who do we have next? We got SF. I'm gonna invite you up to the stage. Hey, how's it going?
Hi. So I don't know you at all. So who are you?
I am the great Pierce Watkins. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not really anybody special. I practice street epistemology. Got a small YouTube channel. That's who I am. I'm not anybody with fame or extreme intelligence. Just a dude.
What kinds of things do you talk about, like in epistemology?
In street epistemology, we talk about anything that you think is true. Some common things might be religious things, religion related, politics related, ethical related,
Hmm.
lots of different stuff.
I don't know much about epistemology. Is that just how you know things, basically?
Yeah, like basically, yeah.
Um, is this true that like pretty much anything, any like truth thing will just come down to like you can't actually ever justify it, like ultimately?
Some people think that. I mean, I guess if you go down the chain far enough, you eventually don't know if like you're in a simulation or real. And if that's the case, how can you know anything? stuff like that, I guess. So I guess you have to make like an assumption that, within this reality, certain things are real, certain things are true.
Yeah, some religious people, they try and say that they do know things for certain, and I just don't understand how they can say that. Because wouldn't
Okay.
like to know to know something, they'll be like it was revealed to me through like divine revelation. But then how do you know that that revelation is actually a revelation? Wouldn't that have to be revealed to you? And it's like an infinite, like, because to know something's true, you need a revelation. So it seems like it'd be like an infinite chain.
To know something is true, you need a revelation. Are you like talking on their behalf, or is that for you?
No, I don't believe that. That's on.
Okay, they're talking. Okay, gotcha. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing. Like, yeah, how do you know, right?
Yeah.
Is there something you'd like to talk about that you think is true?
I guess I mean, I think a lot of things are true, but you never know with
Mhm.
absolute certainty. But like, I think that I exist, and blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Okay, you exist. I mean, that might be a little bit dull, a little bit on the softer side to talk about.
Well, I mean,
We could, I guess.
uh, I mean, everything I just think is real. Like there wouldn't really, like you can't know for absolute certainty. I just think that the certain things are true that I believe. Like I don't think I think that God isn't real. I think that's true, but you can't know that for certain.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
how are you so nice?
How am I so nice?
Yeah.
Well, I practice one thing that I practice to try to be, I wouldn't say nice, but to try to have empathy towards others is I first have to have self empathy. So if something is making me angry or upset, I will first think about the situation. So I'll think, okay, well, this occurred, and this is how I'm feeling about it. This is the need that went unfulfilled. And if I do want to make a request, even if it's just in my head and I'm not verbalizing to someone, I kind of internally think about that request, and that helps me a little bit.
Okay. And what was the previous drama about? I don't know.
Uh, I don't know. I I don't even want to speculate on what he was thinking or anything like that. I'd like to just move on past that, in all honesty.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining listening to Rolodex, but yeah, not good for a
What,
conversation.
yeah. What would you like to talk about? You believe that God is not real to some degree of confidence. Would you like to take a
Yeah.
few minutes to talk about that?
Well, I just see no reason to it's kind of like a common thing. Like, I don't buy the presuppositional stuff. Um requiring you to just like because you like know stuff, that means I don't know what I'm talking about. I just don't think it just doesn't sound intuitively. It sounds dumb.
Okay. So it kind of doesn't sound plausible. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it'd be like, I don't know this. Yeah, gotta get apps kind of thing. So
Okay. All right. Um, if like there, like when you say God, is there some sort of specific God you have in mind, or is it just kind of all gods?
like some supernatural thing with like a mind that has like a will, something like that.
Okay. Is it one that like interacts with humans, or can it just be like doing its own thing?
As long as it has a mind, I guess, and it's like supernatural, I guess that would be a god, I think. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
If there was this like hypothetical god that doesn't interact with people, doesn't ever do anything. Apparently, maybe it created like the Big Bang, for example, or something like that, and then it just went off and did its own thing, never to even mind humans, just didn't even look at them. Um, would you have the same amount of confidence that this god doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. I'm wondering, is it like the same reason that it just doesn't sound plausible?
Well, it just honestly just looks like a projection. Like they're like, what are the chances that like this thing that is pretty similar to humans created the whole universe and like an infinitely extent? It just doesn't make any sense.
Hmm. Okay. What could you learn or discover that might shift your confidence?
Um, a photograph, maybe, some actual evidence. I don't think any argument would even work, because our logic in this universe could be faulty. Like, you don't know if the same laws of logic apply outside the universe. So even trying to like use our logic, it just doesn't follow that it would automatically mean that it applies outside.
Okay. Okay, I hear you. I heard you'd want some sort of evidence, and you gave the
Mm.
example of like a photograph, and then you said some things that wouldn't be convincing, like an argument or something like that. Can you tell me more about this photograph? That's really interesting. What would it look like or be like?
If there was like a verified photograph of like a god coming down and resurrecting someone, I mean that would be pretty good proof. But even if you showed me a photograph, I probably wouldn't believe it because you can't really verify it. Like it would have to be 100% a true photograph of something supernatural happening for me to believe it.
Hmm. Okay, I hear you.
Yeah.
So, is there? It sounds like there might not really be anything that could shift your confidence.
Um. Yeah. I don't really know what you would be able to show me to believe in that sort of thing. Like you would never know.
Okay.
Why do you believe in God?
No, no, I kind of agree. I think I agree with you that I would want some sort of evidence of some sort before I would accept, that claim to be true. Um, but a God claim, a positive God claim. But on the flip side of that, I kind of feel the same way about the negative claim, about the claim that God doesn't exist. I think I would still want some evidence in that direction as well before I have a high degree of confidence that that's the case.
So you're agnostic.
Yes.
Um. Why would you apply that to God and not to like any other thing that you can't prove doesn't exist, like Santa Claus?
Sure. I mean, I suppose I do. Santa Claus might be a special case, I guess, in a sense, just because I think we have like I guess definitionally it's a little bit different. Like we can observe that parents put the gifts under the tree, right? And we there's like an expectation that if you stay up all night, you would see Santa Claus, come in and put the gifts down, right? So it's a little bit different
Yeah,
kind
that's
of claim.
true. But wouldn't that just be like some evidence piling up to support your hypothesis, but you can never be certain? Like hypothetically, you just didn't observe Santa Claus delivering specific gifts.
Sure,
And
like I guess there could be like a hypothetical Santa Claus that's invisible that nobody can ever see, and the gifts are maybe invisible or something. Um, and I mean, you could make it so it's just like a supernatural God claim. Yeah, if we were to go, if the claim was like that, then I'd feel the same way.
Well, like the man that flies in the sky that delivers presents. You're not agnostic. You're like an atheist for that Santa Claus. Or are you an agnostic?
I guess it really depends. I guess the devil's in the details. If we're talking about the invisible Santa Claus that nobody can, ever detect, then sure, I guess I'll stick to that. I don't think about that much very often though.
Yeah, I mean, what you say about Santa Claus, though, I would just say about God, where like we observe so many things to where like if God did exist, we would expect to see a whole bunch of miracles and stuff, but it seems like everything is explained by natural phenomena.
Okay, I hear you. What kind of things would you expect, like specifically?
Um, just like events that couldn't be explained with our laws of physics.
Hmm. Okay. And why would that be an expectation?
Because if everything can be explained with the laws of physics, then it just seems like uh God doesn't really add anything, and the likelihood just goes like there's no evidence supporting it because there's like a simpler one that explains it way better.
Hmm. Okay. And what is that the explanation? The alternate explanation would be naturalism. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a better explanation because there hasn't been any observations of the supernatural.
Yeah.
If we were to observe the supernatural, would that definitionally make it the natural at that point?
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say that. I don't think so.
Hmm.
I think supernatural is um like it can't be explained with any materials. Like
Can you give an
all
example?
um like like it wouldn't be it would be like from a different I don't want to say I'm not sure. Like you just wouldn't be able to explain it with anything in our universe, I guess. I don't know. I haven't thought
Hmm.
that much about
Is there things that we can't explain right now that we don't know how it works?
Yeah, but you would just assume that it's natural because everything has been natural.
Hmm.
And I'm sure those things that we don't know how it works, like people people already know that there's a natural explanation. They just don't know the details
Hmm.
for it.
Okay. How do we know there's a natural explanation?
Um, I mean, you would just assume that because like pretty much like 100% of things are natural that we observe.
Is this different than like a presup sub? I can't say that word very well.
Presuppositional.
Yes, that a theist would make.
Um, well, a theist is basically making like superfluous assumptions. Like any assumption that they make, they're just adding a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really add anything. It's just um yeah.
Okay, and then when a naturalist does it, it adds something. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because like you could explain
Okay.
lightning by being like, okay, all these particles, blah blah, and then you could just be like, okay, also God makes these particles do these things, but like that doesn't add anything. That's just, and you can
Hmm.
infinitely do that. So I don't see why.
If there's something that we didn't know how it worked, um, I don't know what a good example is. Earthquakes. I don't know. Maybe we do know everything there is to know about earthquakes, but let's say we don't, and we were to say, well, it must be natural. Does that add anything, or
Um, well, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, you would be adding a lot more if you said that it's supernatural, because not only are you assuming that this reality exists, you're assuming a whole nother reality exists. That's like adding so much more that you would need
Okay.
to. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of like we know the natural world exists, so it's safer to assume that the cause is natural rather than supernatural because we don't have a way of knowing if the supernatural exists.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So you're not agnostic on God anymore?
um
Because it is
no,
the same as Santa Claus.
I think it might be a little bit different. Just a little bit, you know. The red suit, you know. That
I mean,
makes all the difference.
it sounds like an insult, I guess, but like in terms of like the actual reasons to believe, to be like agnostic versus, it seems like it's the same with Santa Claus as it is with God. Because like with Santa Claus, you observe parents putting the things on the desk. That's evidence against this flying man existing. So we just assume that it's just parents doing it. And with God, it's just everything is natural. So why assume that there's also supernatural?
What if I'm a little late to the party? I'm David. But what if there are elements to Santa Claus putting the presents under the tree that are magical, that you can't see him unless you believe?
That could be true, but it's just there's no reason to believe that,
Hmm.
because like all of the things that we see go against it.
Hmm.
You could believe that, but that would be like because you can't prove that Santa Claus doesn't exist. But that would be like a 0.0000001% chance, but nobody would say they're agnostic. They'd just be like, I don't believe in Santa Claus.
You saw a photograph of Santa Claus?
Sure,
Back
if
in
it
the
was
mountains?
verified somehow. I don't know how that would be.
Yeah.
It's all AI now. All AI.
Yeah.
The one question I didn't hear asked, and I just wanted to ask before I move on. If there were some sort of non-physical type of supernatural kind of occurrence, like something like you were able to read minds all of a sudden, or a thought that you had was broadcasted to other people, something that was non-tangible but miraculous, so to speak, how would that affect your perspective?
I mean, if someone was able to do like telekinesis or something, and I mean, the first thing that I would assume is that the military came up with this like super cool technology that, because they do have like sound things that can make you think, like shoot things into your brain. So that's the first thing I would assume. And if it's something like out of this world, then yeah, I mean, maybe that would lead credence to some sort of supernatural belief.
That's exactly what you said on August 14th, 2007.
Oh no.
Cool. Thanks for answering my question on that. Sorry, I missed the first half of this conversation and the rest of everything else.
It's okay. You didn't miss any of my jokes. I haven't told any of them yet.
Oh, good. Good. That's the main reason I'm showing up.
Well, of course. All right. I think we may have concluded this conversation here. Does that sound about right, David?
Yeah. SF Sorrow, I'd like to talk to you again. It sounds like you got some interesting thoughts there. The beginning next time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.
How do you think, before you jump down, how do you think the conversation went?
That was a pretty good conversation. Yeah. There was no like, we're actually trying to understand each other. Unlike Rolo being debate broy down there. But yeah, it was good.
Okay. Just wanted a little feedback. Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
bye.
it. All right. All right. Oh, yeah, let's yeah. OBS just kind of broke, so let's bring someone up.
Nice. That's a good look.
Yeah. There we go. That's better.
Hello,
Get
sir.
on YouTube and enjoy the view.
Hello,
Hey, Deliver.
Deliver. What's up?
Hello, sir. So, I mean, just as background, right? I'm sort of interested in what you might call a compendium of propositions, right? But primarily, what I'd be interested in is the labor theory of value, right? And specifically, right, I think that the theory is successfully makes, right, 11 separate predictions, right?
Let's start from the basics. So, because we're a general audience here, if what is the general? I mean, what is the labor theory of value?
Right. So the theory, right, is going to be uttering a few propositions, right? One of the propositions, right, that the theory, right, is going to be committed to is going to be that facts about value are just going to be proportional, so to speak, right, to facts about the socially necessary labor time that's going to be expended into some commodity, right, such that that equilibrium price, right, the value is going to become identical to the price, right? Now, that's not going to hold in all cases, right? Like, notice the equilibrium condition, right?
Did you get cut off, or was that your?
No, that's.
Yeah,
sorry.
just
No,
making
that's
sure.
going to be what the theory is saying, right? That's going to be the long and short of it, right?
Yeah. Why is that important to you? Why do you want people to understand that?
The theory is going to make sort of 11 separate predictions, right, that are all going to be explanatorily relevant to certain facts about society, right, which are going to obtain in successive order, right?
So you're saying it's important to you because it provides predictive power?
Yeah, right. So just to sort of name some of the predictions, right? The theory is going to say that there's going to be a tendency for the value rate of profits to decline during long wave periods of expansion, right? The theory is also going to predict the relevant immiseration of the proletariat, right? Which is just to say there's going to be an increase in the rate of surplus value, right? Is a secular trend, right? Another thing that the theory is going to say is that an increase in the physical ratio of machinery to current labor, right, is a secular trend, which is not going to be predicted by the neoclassical theory, right, is going to increase over time, right? Now, there's going to be 7 other predictions, but before I even proceed, right, I want to make sure that the prior predictions aren't going to be opaque, right?
All right. So I'm just going to be outright a dummy right now and just say we got to slow this down. I mean, 11 predictions is a lot to get through. 1 is a lot to get through. So why don't we pick the one that you feel is the most reasonable to you, and we'll start with 1.
Yeah, so it's going to be the declining rate of profit, right? And the sort of declining rate of profit is going to be furnished by a compendium of facts, right? It's going to happen because profits, right, on a plausible theoretical model, right, is going to in part be determined by surplus value, right? But surplus value, right, in a given industry is going to decrease over time, right? As the organic composition of capital increases, right? As the rate of C over V increases, right? Where C is going to be the rate of constant capital, right, which is going to be fixed costs like the machinery and things like that, right, and V, which is going to be variable capital, right, which is going to have to do with the sort of cost of the wages, right. Now that's going to be what's going to furnish, right, the first prediction, right.
Who do you think should understand this theory? Like, who is your target audience to say, I want these people to understand this?
Well, my hope, right, is going to be that any agent who is rational, right, in a sort of Billigramian sense, is going to understand the theory, right? That's going to be the target. Anyone who is Billigramian rational, right? Where the sort of Billigramian notion of rationality is going to be tied to certain facts about intentional states and agency and so on, right?
And do you think this is something that is palatable to the general population? Something that do you think the things you've said today are some things people are going to understand?
Well, there might not be some people, right, who are included. So, for instance, right, the mentally disabled or something, right, they might not track the sort
Sure.
of basic ins and outs of the theories, right? Some
Okay.
other people, right, who also might not fucking track the theory, right, those are going to be people who are not rational, right, in the
Sure.
strict Milgramian sense, right? That's going to be tied to facts about intentional states, right?
Well, I think I might fall under that category. I mean, me personally, I was born yesterday. I don't really know much about anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't be fucking surprised, right? Because if you don't understand the theory, right, that's just sort of going to be an embarrassment, right? Even after the propositional Rolodex has been traversed sufficiently so that the conceptual opacity has been established in the relevant sense, right?
Yeah.
See, over in Greece, right, what we like to do when people don't understand theories, right? When people, like when the teacher, for instance, would explain a concept in the classroom, wouldn't get it, right, we'd call them a no-brain Brian, right? So now the question is just going to be, are you going to be a no-brain Brian, right, in this context, right?
If I was a no-brain Brian, what would be the first step I would use to start moving up on the next level?
Well, step number one, right, would be to not be a no-brain Brian, obviously, right?
Okay.
That's just going to be
Seems simple enough.
furnished
Just-
trivially.
Just throw
right?
better.
Yeah, but you understand the trivial furnishment of that proposition, right? Just to be clear.
Honestly, I'm just having trouble following.
Right, of course you
uh,
are. Of
part
course
two,
you
so-
are, right? Of
Of course
course,
I
right?
am. Yeah. I
I
don't
was
mind being a
born
dummy.
yesterday.
I was born yesterday.
Yeah, I might,
Help
I
me
might
understand.
even grant the proposition, right, about the boredness of the prior day and whatnot, right? I might
Yeah.
actually grant that.
It's
Now,
wild.
if
Science
you're
is
not
crazy.
able to track the theory, right, the labor theory of value, I'm just going to put the quick proposal on the table, right? The
Sure.
proposal is to attempt to read Ernest Mandel's rendition of the labor theory of value, right?
Yeah.
Such that you can gain a cursory understanding of the theory, right?
Yeah, you want to put that in the comment section? I'll try
Yeah,
to check it out.
I'll send the fucking link, right?
Hey, nice. I appreciate that. Well, nice. Well, it sounds like I got a lot to learn to kind of get to the point of having a conversation. And I think I might have to talk to you later on.
Right, I sent the relevant sorts of resources in the chat. So, I mean, I thought the discussion was sort of interesting, right? But what I was hoping for was a refutation of the theory. But I hope one day I might, sort of receive that sort of thing, right?
Sure. And I hope somebody brings you a reputation of or confirmation. The goal here is to try to understand things, not necessarily to fight back about dismantle things. The goal is to understand things here. Well, I mean, we're a little different than a debate situation.
Yeah,
and-
we're not here to debate. This is not a debate show.
It's true. So yeah. All right, cool.
You want to hear that joke,
I-
David?
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
How does the Easter Bunny stay healthy? Think about it.
How does he stay healthy?
With exercise. Can I get a pity laugh? Okay.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know. ChatGPT wrote them. So what are you expecting?
Nah, these robots need to get their humor right.
They do.
Well, they got
Alright,
dad
let's-
jokes down.
That's what I requested. I mean, I guess it was a dad joke. It worked, I guess.
You want to hear my theory of why dad jokes exist as a thing? Because when
Sure.
you are telling jokes to a kid, they laugh at anything you say. So you can just say anything. And eventually you stop trying to make complicated jokes. You stop trying to make actual punchlines. You just be like, oh, it was excellent. And that's how dad jokes are born, because kids will laugh at any dumb thing.
And you know what? As they get older, they realize that they're bad jokes and they laugh at them being so bad sometimes.
Exactly. Post-ironic irony.
All right, we got someone up on stage here.
Yo, what's cracking?
How are you?
Hey.
Not too bad. I was just trying to I'm not a debate type or even I don't dabble in too many philosophicals, that I can just sit here and ramble on some 10-letter long words or whatever to fully define my case or whatever. But I'm more down to sharpen or what's the word? Dispel whatever beliefs I already have. I'm willing to go through that thought process, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And currently I believe in I've been told that what I believe is essentially panentheism, more or less.
Okay. I think usually I pronounce it pantheism. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation or not.
Is it different than that?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
it is. Okay.
panentheism is more it's more or less not God isn't necessarily everything. It's more that God is everywhere is the best way I could describe it. I'm probably not so precise on that, but I believe that's the difference. And I think the reason why I have that distinguishment or whatever, if that's a word, is that I don't think that everybody is God, right? So I think if I thought everybody was God, that would be pantheism. Whereas I'm just, what I think is that the influence of God is everywhere and has
What
pervaded everything,
what does that
material,
mean?
non-material.
Can you give an example of what that might look like?
That would be really hard. Look like?
Or just an example. That's kind of what I mean.
Okay. So, I guess maybe this is a good example. If you look at an anthill, right? They're not, I guess, aware of what they look like from above and their effect on the environment around them. I guess their symbiotic relationship with the environment around them. I'm sure for an ant, they more than likely go through their day-to-day concerned with their own ant lives, right? Not fully understanding their symbiotic relationship, I guess is what I'm getting at. And when I see the different religions we have dispersed throughout the world, I think it's all in play. I think it's all on the table. For instance, whether it's good or evil, the idea of a religion as a social construct to what's the word? Give people guidelines to follow, to do things, to act in a particular manner, moral guidelines, whatever. There may be reasons for waging war or whatever that are religious based. I think it's all in play, and I think all of that is divine. It's God basically evolving creation, pushing it forward, moving it along. And say I think of it more collectively. When I look at the Vatican, I see the Vatican as a collective symbol of God. Although it may not be God, it's almost like the ideas of that group, that conscious group, came from that God, and they came together and built that symbol and that like center point to meet at and all of that. And the Vatican is just one example, but those are everywhere. There's like Mormon temples and so on and so forth, right? There's Capitol buildings, whatever it may be. Like maybe it isn't even so much a religious thing. It's, you look at a building, and a building is, it houses a bunch of people collectively, and all those people are doing jobs, right? They have their own reasons why, but they're all collectively doing these jobs in these buildings, cubicles, whatever. But I guess if you think about it mechanically, like a building is like a microcontroller of some sort, right? And well, I guess that sounds kind of wild. Basically, what I'm saying is when you look at a circuit board, there's all these pathways that electrons are flowing through different microcontrollers, microprocessors, yada yada yada. There's logic gates and all of this stuff, and it just does what it does. But in reality, somebody designed it to do that. But the thing that is doing that, these electrons like aren't aware that somebody has now designed this circuit to do this. They're not aware that somebody designed, say, this transistor or this microcontroller on this circuit. And like these buildings, I'm comparing them to being like a microcontroller, a black box on some larger circuit, which we would call like roads, right? Roads are these connecting points, and people drive on them, walk on sidewalks, walk into work, and I guess we're the electrons. Just as an example, but that's kind of how I see the world.
Yeah, I hear you. So it's kind of like you're making this comparison between the ants or the circuit board. I think I like the circuit board example a little bit better. So
Yeah.
It's like these electrons are moving around on the circuit board. The processor is like a building, and the RAM is like another building, or all these other little chips are like buildings. And
Right.
the electrons don't really know, what their purpose is here. And it's kind of like people wandering through the library and then going to school and then going to their job and then going home. And like they might not really know what their purpose is here, but they're doing their thing. They're going round and round and round, whatever. So that's kind of like the comparison that I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, great. And with this comparison, you're like looking at this and you're like, well, people are going around, they're not really knowing their purpose. And it sounds like that leads you to this belief in panentheism, which is God is everywhere.
This is probably going to sound dumb, but a little bit of that and a little bit of psychedelics. So that's like kind of where I'm coming from. But that combined with just some just experiences that I've had on psychedelics, which you could very well say, well, that's something that's happening in your mind. These are like hallucinations. You're being thrown into different psychological settings and events, and you could come out of that with some different beliefs. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I interrupted you. Did you believe this before? Like, had you heard this before you did the psychedelics?
No, actually, like it maybe like in a vague way of some sort, but I never really cared to put a pin on that. Really a very shortened version of my life story, just super short, is I used to be Mormon, and I escaped all of that. And then I had like some conflicting thoughts along the way. And then I prescribed to like Christianity. And I thought, well, this is it. Like, this is the answer. I took it so seriously that I went to school for theology. And then while I was going to school for theology, I just ran into a lot of issues with the Bible, and it's just the errors in it, which is like a whole other thing. And then through that, I decided maybe God doesn't exist. I don't even know at this point, but basically I'm done with theology. And then, you know, while I'm on psychedelics, I keep running into these very like what seem to be divine experiences.
What do you mean by that?
So like, this is gonna sound skits, but hearing like a voice talk to me or something, or try to like push my mind in a particular direction. It seems like every time I take psychedelics, it seems like the thing that pushes me to learn more about life in some way, whether it's like through mathematics or physics or an interest I have in something, it seems like it's coming from not within me. It seems like it is apart from me and influencing me to push myself. An example is hearing a voice talking to me about like Q prime, which is like I still to this day don't know what Q prime is, but I was like, what the hell is Q prime? And I'm like looking this up, and it does have an application. I still don't know enough mathematics to sit here and like pretend I know what that application is, but it did like bring me onto wanting to understand more about prime numbers. And then I went on and built just a little like web page for myself in HTML and JavaScript with functions for prime numbers and twin primes, and highlighting those in red and blue across a grid from 0 to 100,000. And before I knew it, like I was actively learning something about the behavior of prime numbers. And it turns out that like what I had actually did was something that was already done. It's called the sieve of Eratosthenes. It's blocking prime numbers by groups of 100 at a time. And you know, so coming out of that, I know that sounds like boring or whatever, but coming out of that,
No,
and
I'm interested to hear it. In fact, I got a few questions about that. If you don't want to, if I can ask you real quick.
Sure.
If you heard that voice, that same voice, and it said something like fabric softener, do you think it would have had the same kind of significance? Does the kind of ambiguity of Q prime make it feel more more likely to be true? Why do you think that is something guiding you versus any arbitrary word?
Well, that's more of an example on like just a very, it sounds very ambiguous thing, right? But in that case, I would have to have a little more like evidence behind something like fabric softener, right? However, if I heard fabric softener and then I opened my door and there was like an Amazon package sitting there, and I opened it and I found like, you know, a case of 5 things of fabric softener sitting in a box, and it turns out the box wasn't mine, I would start asking myself some very odd questions, like even if it meant nothing, even if that's just a weird situation. But it really, that was like one example with Q prime. But another example is before I had learned about Hinduism, and I don't prescribe to the belief or anything, but before I had learned about it, I was experiencing hallucinations that were similar to things described in Hinduism of, you know, beings with multiple arms and things like that. And then buddies of mine that also do mushrooms experience sort of the same thing, like stuff like that. And it may not mean that, oh, Hinduism is absolutely true in its way, but after that experience, it did. I was curious, and I started learning more about it and listening to things like Alan Watts, and Alan Watts' whole take on this is kind of similar to mine, where it's like these things exist, these religions exist. They all claim, they all have some divinity claim to them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is the one true way. You could very well be on your own island and just be you, and that is perfectly fine. But just after all of these experiences I've had, it seems like whether it's like mushrooms or some sort of divine sign, as I think I see it, it's always pushed me somewhere good, and it helped me push my mind further to I don't know, become a better person, or become more like thorough in the way that I think, or my arithmetic in doing things.
If you think this is, go ahead, Pierce.
If it had been pushing you in kind of the opposite direction, where it was like telling you to do things that were bad, would you still hold the belief?
I think if it was telling me to do things that I thought were bad, I just wouldn't do them, and it would probably freak me out. I'd probably think it's like, hey, maybe it's like demonic or something. You know what I mean?
Oh,
which is like who's to say? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Guess I don't really know.
Do you think this is a method that other people could use to come to similar conclusions? Do you think if we had everybody in this audience take the same psychedelics, they would come to similar conclusions as you?
I do think it's possible, just because I've known people on psychedelics that have come to more or less the same conclusion as me.
What happens if two people come to different conclusions? What if one person gets told to do bad things? Or how do you know how do you determine who's getting the right message?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would still be attached to the belief that I have and try to like rectify it in some way, and maybe consider what if the information they were getting was just evil, and would I actually sit there and like try to hash this out with the person? Probably not. Like I would probably just be like, hey, maybe don't take that again. That does not work out for you. Like, that's not a good idea. But as far as myself, the thoughts that I would keep to myself, I would just think, hey, maybe they were in a very impressionable state and could have been hit with just some bad juju, just some really evil stuff. Because I think that exists as well. I think evil's out there, and I think it's just as powerful as good. Like, I think it's like a balance, like 50-50. I prescribe to good. I'd rather not do evil, but I think that both things are in play. I don't know if that makes sense. Sorry if this sounds like really convoluted, but yeah, I've never really had a chance to sit here.
There's a lot of stuff to sort through.
Totally.
I got a hypothetical if you want to do that.
Sure.
Okay. Imagine there's an alien. His name's Alan. Real nice guy. Lands his spaceship just outside your house. He's never been to Earth before. Doesn't know anything about humans. He's never met anyone. Never talked to anyone. Doing his own alien thing. Maybe he was born yesterday. Who knows? But he comes down to Earth, and he tunes into the show, and he wants to know if pantheism is true and if God is everywhere. What would be the best way for Alan the alien to figure this situation out, to figure out what is true?
Dang, I'm not gonna lie. That's a really good. That's almost like a game-breaking question. like man. I think I'd have to sit on that for a while, like, because it's not like I could, just tell this guy like, well, take this thing that I take, like your chemistry is going to be different. Like what it doesn't even affect him, right? Like, so obviously this Alan here is going to have to, by some other means, have to see the universe in the same way. I think it would be difficult. I think maybe what I would try to do, if this was the goal, was just give him things to consider. So maybe consider things like the likelihood that me and Alan met up in a universe, as two life forms that are separate from each other in a universe so infinite and vast. The likelihood that could happen, I would say, even an event like that. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I had an alien like show up at my door asking me for answers, I would think that's kind of a divine event itself,
That's pretty wild, I guess, aliens
Yeah.
and stuff. For the sake of the hypothetical, let's suppose that Alan has close enough body chemistry to humans to where these drugs would affect him in the same manner. Would that affect your answer?
I guess I don't know. Well, could you rephrase that or say that again?
Sure.
I don't think I'm following.
Let's say that Alan can take the same drugs as you do, and they affect him in the same way. He, starts tripping balls or something, whatever.
Yeah, similar.
I guess there's not so much weight. Like I don't put so much weight on like basically I just see psychedelics as like, this is an easy way. It's like the easy button, right? I see that as my easy button. Whereas like, but do I think it's like absolutely necessary that that's the way? Like, no, not at all. And I also don't think that would be like even the first route. I just think of, for me as a human, to consider or push my mind into these like areas of like consideration. Psychedelics makes that easier, as opposed to sitting there discussing this with somebody for hours on end as to the reason why I look at the world the way that I do.
Is using psychedelics a way to come to a high degree of confidence that that God is everywhere?
No, no, like it can't be, because then it's like, that's an altered state, right? Like I can't put so much weight on being in an altered state, but it's more the fact that even when I'm not on them, life seems to have a divine fingerprint to it, that it just seems, I don't know.
What-
Yeah, it just seems divine, like even in itself without psychedelics. So I don't need them either.
If God is everywhere is like this one explanation for what you're seeing and your experiences, perhaps, what is the next best explanation?
The next best explanation, I think, would be math. I think it would be math and physics to like just the nth degree.
Like
But-
natural explanations? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, but I think why I don't fall on that is, how do I put this? Like I'm already aware we live in a universe that is governed by math and physics, right? Like that it is what it is. But I think that doesn't necessarily like mean that because math and physics are there to, I guess, define the universe, God would be apart from it. I think that is it. Like, I think for those things to be there and do what they're doing is divine. The idea that we have like dimensions beyond the reality we live in, like the third dimension, the idea that in order for something to exist in a lower order, a lower dimension, it had to be brought forth from a higher dimension. Just that alone, yeah, sure, you're speaking in matters of like math and physics, but I think that's still equally a divine fingerprint. I don't know if that makes sense. I've never had to say that before, but I think that's like the best way I could describe that.
A question I have for you. If Alan the alien was not convinced, like that, just the drugs didn't do it for him, and the propositions and the things he read just didn't lead him to that conclusion. What values do you think are so important from that worldview that you would want Alan to try to maintain or consider, at least?
Consider? I think just the idea that like no matter what happens, just be, and like everything's gonna be all right, I guess. Like, I know that sounds really like woo woo, but yeah, like from my position, that is how I see things. I see it as like good or evil, whatever the event is. I could get swallowed by a shark or whatever, right? Like, I see that as just a experience, and when I am no longer in a physical body, so be it. It's over. Everything's all right. Like, for instance, when, if you don't mind me asking, like, what year were you born?
I remember more.
You can give me a fake year. Okay, yeah. Let's just say you're born in like 92. You basically yourself in 1991 were perfectly fine, no problem in the world. Like, you weren't here, but you were fine. And when you die, it's like the same thing. It's the universe is just going to keep churning, everything's going to like continue to run its course. But whether you're in a physical body or not, like everything's going to be okay, I guess.
It sounds
everything keeps going.
Sounds like you would, if Alan wasn't convinced by these methods of determining that God is everywhere, it sounds like you would offer him comfort. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess I would. But I'd also like push him to like continue to, whatever burning questions he has, to like continue to pursue them. I mean, the universe is pretty crazy. I don't even think like my position as it stands today is what's the word? Like the end point. Because it could very well be possible that, just because I think that God is present in all the universe. I mean, well, what about the case for multiple universes? Now what? Right? Like, there's still a lot like to evolve with that like thought process, but it's basically where I'm at now.
This might be a little bit of an assumption on my part, so correct me if I'm off base. I very well might be. Since you would offer comfort to Alan if he didn't come to, this conclusion, is it safe to assume that if you were to lose this belief that God is everywhere, that it might be something that's maybe stressful or uncomfortable for you?
Yeah, I could see where you're going with that. Yeah, if I'm being honest with myself, if I did lose that, the idea of it being all for nothing is very uncomfortable, for sure. So yeah, I guess that's like a little bit of my own like bias in there. I definitely do think that for me to go through the world, it is more comfortable to see a bad thing happen or a good thing happen and know that I have the potential to like be a light to somebody in a particular situation, or like just be a good person. And I know like an atheist can separate that, right? An atheist can be like, well, I can be a good person without any sort of belief in God, and that may be true. I would say my weight in putting so much weight in divinity allows me to check myself at like every second of like an interaction, right? Like it's basically, I do sit there and almost actively am sure that whoever I'm talking to, I'm doing it for the better of God. Like, and I wouldn't want to do them any wrong, basically. I would want to be sure that like, in my case, like I want to do good things, that they get to experience good things and feel comforted and like they're not suffering. If I can alleviate suffering, I think I'm doing my job in some way, or doing what this God would want, or at least whatever a portion of its personality would want, or whatever. But I am aware that that isn't necessarily like, what's the word? That doesn't make me any different than like a Christian, right?
I wonder if that would make you different than most people. I think most people might agree with that. You think so?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's a good point.
Cool. With that being said, if you were to reduce your confidence, or maybe not even believe it anymore, would like, since you wouldn't be that different than others, you kind of have the same goals, would you find some comfort in that?
Man, that's almost like yeah, it's like a really psychological thing. I think if I felt that there wasn't a divine purpose of some sort, I think I would just not care about anything. I think I would just like, does it really matter almost? And I know that sounds like oh well, so you can only have, say, morals, right? Like you can only have morals if you believe in God. Like it does sound similar to that. I don't know.
Earlier,
That's
you were
a-
saying things like you'd want people to see light or feel the kind of light that you were talking about. You wanted people to feel value. You have human subjective experiences. Does that part in the description of what you were doing is still there, right?
Yeah, like let's say I felt that this thing doesn't exist at all. I would still want good for people. Like I would still want those things for people. But I think I may be more forceful about outcomes. So like, how do I put this? If let's say there's no divine consequence, right? Like just like that as an idea. If there's no divine
Like it
consequence,
in a Christian God way, or
then you might.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting up.
How do I put this? Like I think about like kind of like hacktivism, right? Like things like hacktivism, like hacking, but like activism, that whole thing, hacktivism, cool.
Mhm.
Like Mr. Robot type thing.
There you go, like stuff like that. Like I think if there wasn't a god of some sort involved, I would see it as, hey, look, bad situation. Here's the solution. Could lose some people in the process, but this needs to happen. It is for the better, but it's okay to lose this due to the greater end. I guess I could see something like that, but that's not where I'm at now. It's hard to say. It's hard to talk on something like a position that I'm not actually in. But I would imagine that if I didn't have so much weight into this idea of a all-pervasive God of some sort, I may be a little more loose and forceful about outcome, like determining outcome, how it gets done, yada yada yada. Doesn't mean I would like surely wouldn't want to go like full blown like Skit's evil or something, but that I think that's, if I'm just being honest with myself, I think I would drop some of the moral obligations that I have. I guess the best way I could put that is I see the universe as like its whole operation is divine, like it's just flowing, and all of these events are over some watchful eye, I guess, right? So it's like, would I really want to sit here and be some hacktivist and potentially like also ruin some lives in the process or something and make a wrong move and run the risk of doing that? I would basically be how do I put this, like not like disrespecting, but like being abusive to this God, to this God's like creation, I guess.
Now, we've asked you a good number of questions here, and
yeah, totally. This is like, yeah,
No.
this has been a while. My bad.
yeah, great. At the risk of it being a long answer, but if you can, just try to keep this short. So Alan the aliens ask you all these questions, heard all this, and he's still not convinced right away yet at this point. What do you think Alan, having all these questions here, is missing to understand what you understand?
Missing?
Yeah, I mean, what is he not considering
Well,
that's not putting him in the perspective you have?
yeah, I don't think I would know. I don't think I'd be the one to know that. Like,
What
I
would be his
think
next
if
step then? Go ahead, say your thought.
like I think if anybody thinks they're gonna like uh have some foolproof way of like say converting somebody, right? Like I just don't think I don't know. Like I'm okay with the
Yeah.
fact that he could walk away from that situation being like, this guy is fucking retarded, man. I'm hopping back in my spaceship, I'm taking off, I'm getting out of here. Earth is crazy. You know, does his own
You might say
thing.
that either way.
Yeah. Like,
Earth is crazy no matter what. All right. Do you shoot? I mean, what's a compass, like a general direction? What do you think his next kind of step would be to get to fully to understand better where your perspective is?
maybe a way to put this is like embracing collective movements of some sort, like
Mhm.
collective goals, collective I think things that are like naturally collective, I guess, are like a part of that divine fingerprint. You know, obviously it doesn't mean everything that's collective. Say there's a some freaking like cult or something, right? Like probably not a good idea, but embracing like that, hey, maybe it's okay to work with a group of a couple hundred people and do these selfless acts of work to accomplish a goal, and maybe consider that the fact that you could do that collectively in the way that you do so well could be divine in nature, and the fact that it's worked like that for so long could be divine. And if you don't believe that, then that's also fine as well.
Neat. Somebody write that down for me. Text it to me here in a little bit. I want to chew on
Okay,
it.
well, yeah, all right, but
Jaturna.
dude, thanks though.
Jaturna?
This was
Yeah.
like a freaking I'm not gonna lie, that was a workout. Dude.
Yeah. It
Anyway,
was fun. It was some neat perspectives to consider on our part and to try to understand. I know Alan the Alien. I mean, he got some interesting things to think about.
I'll dip, but yeah, dude, thanks again.
One last thing before we let you go. Were you able to reflect on your belief and the reasons for your belief?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like I was about to go to sleep after this. I'm probably not gonna go to sleep for like another 2
Oh.
hours.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm chilling. It's the weekend, baby. I'm chilling. But yeah, I'll definitely be thinking about it.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, thanks again.
Let us
Peace
know what
out.
you find out.
Hell yeah.
Right on.
All right. You want to take up one more caller, David?
Yeah, let's do it. We got a good rolling. Let's go.
Alrighty. And we've spoken to this fellow before.
We have. Yeah. Net. Hello.
Hi, what's up?
Just
So,
chilling
you
like a
guys-
villain.
Anything new since we last talked?
Yeah, I came here to talk about feminism today.
Ah. Why feminism? Why is that important to you?
Well, not really feminism, but sexism and things related to that. I think they are really important to my life and what I want to advocate for and engage with politically. Yeah.
You said sexism has a big impact on your life?
Yeah, and that's really important for me to talk about. I think that's really important in my life. Yeah.
How do you
I
define
consider it
sexism?
really. yeah, I consider it really important in my life, and I came here to talk about it. So I want to know
Hmm.
what you guys think about feminism.
I guess it depends on which way we're talking about it, how we're defining it, what situation we're talking about it in. It's pretty wide net there, net.
Yeah, in our day and age right now, in a Western first world country like America, that's the easiest country we all know about. So let's talk
Yeah.
about America. Yeah, what about them? What about feminism there? What do you think about that?
Uh, Again, it's a little wide still for me because feminism could be describing different scenarios at works. It could be describing different scenarios of personal relationship. It could be a news title. It could just be clickbait. There's it's a buzzword in a lot of ways. So I guess I want to understand what feminism means to you, like what the definition is, or what we're talking about, and then I can express to you how I understand what you're saying.
Would you say America is generally so if I were to ask you about sex, the issue of sexism in America, would you say that America is sexist against women? Would you say that?
And I hope I'm not being annoying by doing this, but can you define sexism? Like sexist? I'm sorry. I want to talk about what you're talking about, and everybody uses these words a little differently, and I don't want to misconstrue.
I am using these words how they're meant to be. I'm not one of those. So just
Well, for the sake of the audience and everyone, do you mind defining it?
they can Google what sexism is. Well, sexism, it's treating different sexes differently. And, it usually involves treating one sex worse.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Now, you asked if America is sexist, or uses sexism.
Yeah, that was
Um,
my question. What do you think?
America's not a person. America is a group of states and different representatives in different states and different federal
Yeah, I guess
levels and stuff
society
like
in
that. It's
general.
I think there are places at which me personally, I think there are places at which women get the short end of the stick. I think there are places that men get the short end of the stick. I think that it's primarily been more short end sticks for women over the past uh, most of history. And
Mm-hmm. Like how?
well, there have been less uh, potential rights for women, which
Like
we've
what?
made progress in that, like the right to vote, the right
Oh,
to
okay. So, yeah, those women, they must be um, really wanting to be men, so they could have more rights, right? Back then, right?
I'm trying to understand what value, like what is the need of this conversation? Like, what are you trying to propose?
Yeah, just h- talk to me normally, instead of digging for any hidden implication I might have, instead of looking for that, just, there's no hidden implication. I'm just saying what I'm saying. So you told me that in the past, women enjoyed less rights. Um, that's not really true. I mean,
No,
this is the biggest. This is the biggest psyop I have ever seen. In the world happening. In the entire world right now.
no, Net, we've
You know,
talked before, so I know that you have kind of an idea of what we're doing, but I'm just gonna remind you a little bit. So what we're
okay,
doing is
yeah,
called Street Epistemology. So it's a
okay,
conversation technique where we talk about what you believe, how you arrived at your conclusion, and
okay,
kind
yeah,
of
I
talk
know.
about your reasons and stuff. Um, I suppose if you wanted to do street epistemology on us, you could. I would allow that. But if you're, so far, I don't think you quite have gotten there. But if you have a claim that you'd like to, tell us about, then we
Okay.
can, yeah, so we can kind of go down, the route that the show is set up for.
Oh, all right, all right.
If you were to hear a list of if you were to hear a list of things that seem to be unequal for men and women, wait, just let me first ask: are you making the claim that there has been no sexism, or there's been less sexism? I just want to fully understand what perspective what we're talking.
Okay, so here's what I think. I don't think it's fair. I don't think you get to say, and people should get to say that women back then had less rights back then because they weren't allowed access to a ballot paper when men and teenage boys, even children who were unfortunate enough to be born males, were drafted into wars and dying there. So I don't think it's fair to say they had less rights. Like, I mean, d- have everyone else forgotten about wars and how everybody was drafted, every man was being drafted for it? That's even happening right now in Ukraine and Russia. So it has always been such a ridiculous proposition to hear that women back then had less rights. 50 years ago, I don't know much about America. I barely know about the Vietnam conflict. Women had the right to vote back then. Even back then, men were being drafted. So it's such a ridiculous thing to say. Women had less rights. Oh well, uh, all the men were being drafted into wars. They were basically being genocided, and everybody here just believes women had less rights, and that's why I take issue with feminism and everything that branches out of it.
Okay, I think I hear David. Do you want to say something?
You go for it. I'll hold my
Okay.
thought.
I think what I'm hearing is it's kind of like you're making this kind of like this math equation for men and this math equation for women. And I think on the men's side, you got like the war and the draft, and many young men were drafted into the war, and plenty of them gave their lives while lost their lives while fighting these wars. Um, and then on the other hand, you got this other equation for women, and you're talking about voting. And I think your conclusion, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that kind of men got the short end of the stick uh, because many of them were drafted into the war, and that's a worse thing to happen than to not be able to vote.
Yeah, do not have
Okay.
access to a simple ballot paper. Yeah, what would you rather have? Most people don't even vote. Like, there's some people in my family who have never voted. If you were to ask them, hey, sh- should anyone, do you want to die right now? What do you think their response would be?
Okay. If there wasn't any, like, we were talking about the United States, so I guess let's talk about that perhaps. So we have the draft. If the draft hadn't existed, or if the draft hadn't discriminated between men and women, uh, would you say that the women got the short end of the stick?
Oh, if the draft didn't exist and it was just women lacking the right to vote, then were women getting the short end of the stick? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be
Okay.
fairly, it would be a really minor thing, considering how severe the draft is as an issue. Yeah, I would call it that, sure.
Okay. Okay.
Do you
So-
think? Go ahead, Pierce. Finish your thought.
So it sounds like this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is kind of, the draft is the main reason, the main thing that is fueling your belief that that men are more discriminated against than women in the United States?
If I were to make a list, it would be bigger. It would be bigger than War and Peace for all the reasons that I believe in the things I believe. It's not just the draft.
Hmm.
Do you believe it has to be one way or the other? Could it be that there
Yeah.
were things that we should
Yeah.
improve on and things that we on either side?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
If we were considering independent of things that you think that men got the short end of the stick on, do you think that you could still accumulate a list of things that women got the short end of the stick on that could still add up and still need to be addressed?
I don't think people know. I don't like what you're saying right now, because I have never heard anyone speak like this in such a way about racism. And by the way, yeah, it's just like,
Feminism?
it's discrimination based on immutable characteristics. So, it's kind of it's a similar thing. And both parties cannot be discriminated against. Discrimination by definition means that it's a relative thing.
I'm
Only
sorry,
one party can be
are we shifting
discriminated against.
topics? I'm just
Hmm?
trying to follow you here.
No, you asked me about could both parties have some gripes, some genuine gripes, right? You said something along those lines.
Yeah, we were talking about feminism and
Yeah.
sexism. We were talking about sexism specifically.
Y- Yeah, you said that both of the sexes could have some genuine gripes, and I'm saying no, that's not really possible, because both the sexes, or both parties in any situation, cannot be discriminated against. Only one party can be discriminated against. By definition, that's how the concept works. It's relative.
Is
If
that
everybody is
in all
discriminated,
scenarios? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, so here's how the concept of discrimination works. If everybody is discriminated against, it's nobody is, because by definition it's about treating uh, f- a section of people different than you treat other people in a worse way. That's
I hear what you're
what
saying,
the
and
yeah.
that's on me. I didn't communicate clearly. I'm saying, are there different scenarios at which, I mean, do we have to look at this as one side is the most, or one side is it's only one side that's discriminated against, or can you say, like, in this area and is this one, and this area is this one, and this particular type of scenario is this one? You know what I'm saying? So the discrimination is
Harm is
context based.
harm is a relative concept. So if everybody has it worse, but somebody else has it worse, that's a different. Harm is a relative thing.
I'm not talking
You know,
about
you
high
know,
score. I'm just saying, like, situations, like the voting was
no,
very
there.
specific to that situation.
Okay.
The maybe something like owning property is very specific to that situation. Maybe something like divorces and then like separations and child support. It's a specific situation, and each of those have their own factors.
There is no situation where women are discriminated against, really, that I'm aware of, and I frankly don't think there is any that exists. And people don't really talk about any other thing like this. It's not really a topic that if that good people should be having, I think. I just think it's like dog whistling. Yeah, I might be losing you. I'm not being very
No,
clear right now.
I know what you mean. But I mean, I'm breaking format of the show to to have this conversation in this
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
But
I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm just gonna say
I'll
there are
say, I
not
mean, I
really,
will
yeah.
talk about both sides. Like it's not a problem. I think there are individual situations to address. That's what I'm trying to say. That to try to
Okay,
make a
yeah,
blanket
just to
statement and say
be,
that
yeah.
these people are never this, these people are never this. I feel like that's you're going to get lost in the sauce in that kind of way. I mean, you're going to be so
Mhm.
blind to actually addressing
Mhm.
situations if you have that kind of presupposition.
Yeah, so just to give you a quick, concise answer, I don't think there are any scenarios where women are discriminated against, and yeah, that's it.
What's the situation which men are discriminated against?
Yeah, I just named a draft. I just named one.
So if
You
women
want me to
were
name
only,
more?
yeah, what's another one?
Well, another one, people talk about, how awful the Middle East is when it comes to women's rights, or how, in Africa, in some parts of Africa, their genitals are mutilated. People do the, I was watching this one news reporter. I don't know, maybe it was from, I don't know which one it was, but they were showing that how women girls their genitals were mutilated, and they use those body parts, those mutilated body parts for decorations and things like that. This is the same thing you guys do in America. This is the exact same thing, and yet that is somehow okay. It's much worse when America does it, because America is a first world country. It's the most significant country on the planet, and it's different when some random backwards, nobody cares about country in Africa does it. It's different as compared to when America, the most significant country out there, does it, and it's much much worse. America does it much more. It mutilates, circumcises male babies. Just the men, not women.
Well, that
And
sounds like a sword that cuts
you,
both on both sides. It sounds like you have the issue with circumcision, which is a very solid conversation to have.
yeah, and it's also, it's not just mutilation, it's organ harvesting as well, because they use those mutilated body parts in America as well for sunscreens and things like that. So it's really sick that a first world country is doing such things.
This is news to
It's
me.
it's really sick, and yeah, it's a really sick thing, and I'm shocked that um, you can really manipulate people, and how much social conditioning can play a part in shaping people.
I'm
I
just
thought,
I
sorry.
mean that is fast. I mean that's interesting and something I'll have to look into. But like, do you can we go back to examples of men being
Yeah, this
uh
is one of those.
it sounds like that's something that happens to both sexes. I'm trying to understand.
It happens well in America. It only happens to men, and if you were to look at all over the world, it happens to men more.
Are there any examples from other countries that might treat women poorly?
No.
What would it look like to treat someone poorly? Or like what would it, can you think of like a
Yeah,
hypothetical
the way they
example?
treat men. Yeah, the way we treat men right now in every corner of the world.
So if there was a country that didn't do circumcision for men, but they did the equivalent to women, or whatever it is for women, I don't think that's necessarily
Yeah, it's
equivalent.
female it's called
Okay.
female circumcision.
Called said.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you were to find that out, that they did that to women and not so much men, would that be an example of women being discriminated against?
Yeah, if the same thing was happening to women, yeah, then I would say women are being discriminated against.
Okay. If you were to find a different example, let's say a woman had to wear a certain thing or do a certain thing all the time, or were limited in a way like that, where men were not in this country? Would that be a form of discrimination?
I would look at I would look at everything else that is happening, and if a woman just have to, if there's a country where they have where they have their customs, then they're really religious, like the Middle East, and they have customs where women just have to wear a piece of cloth, and the men, they have to suffer something much more. Then I would not say women are being discriminated against. I would say men are being discriminated against. And
If
it's just you were talking about wearing a certain piece of cloth. It's just you're talking. I mean, maybe you're referring to the things like the hijab. It's just a piece of cloth. It is such a far cry from everything else that happens to men all over the globe. It's nothing compared to everything else that happens.
if you were one of these women in one of those countries, uh, how can you imagine what feeling you might feel? What feeling might you have?
I would feel pretty privileged. That's assuming I wasn't dumb or the R word or anything.
And why would that feeling? Why would you have that feeling?
Because just looking at the world and thinking about it.
Okay.
Do
And
you
as
think?
oh,
Go ahead, Pierre. Well, I was just going to ask if there was better representation of men's suffering and struggles and the things that are put on men specifically for being men, and there was better support, there was better acknowledgement, there was better trying to mitigate those situations, make things more equal. Do you feel as though you would have such a strong stance against the lack of problems that a woman might face?
I look at just look at how severe and how important BLM, movements like BLM is in America right now. That's how we should treat the issues that I'm talking about. That's how radical people need to be, and that's how much importance we should be giving this. Because uh, it's ridiculous that this is a legal issue that I'm having an issue with. All the other movements that are much more popular, they're about social issues. Social issues are not as severe as legal issues. So this we everybody should be really radical on this one. Especially we should be giving it more importance than we give compared to the importance we give to racism. And as far as I know, you guys really give a lot of importance to racism. And the importance that sexism against men should be given should be 10 times as much. You know, yeah, I really thought that I would. When I came here, I wished I could convince you, to have these issues, to have these issues be the forefront of your life. This should be really important to you. I mean, don't you think you should be treated fairly? Don't you think you should have fair treatment, a fair shot at life, regardless of which demographic you were born in?
Hear me out. I'm going to give you my candid, honest. This is just me. This is my answer here.
Okay.
I think the things that you're saying are that are trials for men. I think you have some legitimate things to talk about. I think these are things that are important to talk about. I'm with you on saying there are things that men have to deal with specifically, and that we should address those things. But you came out the gate making your claim as women are getting too much attention. Women are getting, it's just their issues aren't that important. Like, fuck all the stuff that they're doing. Like, I mean, they don't have anything going on with them. Only men issues are way more important. Why is nobody talking about it?
Yeah,
Come
just having
out the gate.
feminism, whatever they're doing, it's just like,
Come out the
whatever they're
gate
doing is
saying,
just like
this is the men
saying
issue. Men
white lives
issues are
matter.
important. I'm sorry, my computer was lagging. Can you say it again?
Yeah, it's just like saying, feminism and, everything you're talking about is just like saying white lives matter. How would you respond to someone who says white
Yeah, you're
lives
doing
matter?
what you're saying is ineffective.
Well, am I right? That's what I'm primarily concerned with right now. Am I right? It may not be effective. If I'm right, it should be effective, assuming, I mean, if you're making the claim that most people are not smart enough to see the right thing and have it be effective on them, you can make that case. But am I right?
I mean, somebody who can point problems out in a building is a different person that could build a building. You gotta. My thing here is we spent 20 minutes talking about like how you define, sexism and that women's issues aren't important, which is not important. What was more important to you, what it sounds like, this is from what I'm saying, is that men get the recognition that the issues that men are facing are addressed. And I will gladly do that with you. I will talk about that with you for hours. I don't mind. I think it's important too. But when we're sitting here having to tear somebody else down to try to say that these people are stupid almost for thinking that. And I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I mean, that's the kind of impression I'm getting. Do
you think
we're wasting time? Let's talk about the issues that are important to you.
Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's an okay thing to say that white lives matter? Especially in a bad context. How about
I think it's
people are talking,
ineffective. I think it's ineffective. Like, seriously, I think it's bad marketing. I think it's to say there are things that you can deal with as a white person. I'm a white person, and of course, I think my life matters. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to convince somebody
right?
of nobody's going to understand what I mean, because you're borrowing another concept. You're borrowing from another thing to try to co-opt it in a way that's a lash at the other thing, as opposed to a posit to the thing that you are trying to value. So what you're doing is you're having to have this sluggish baggage language that you're using that just is going to cause people to put defenses up, as opposed to actually hear your proposition. It's literally attack on another idea instead of a posit of your idea.
It's a bad idea. It's a bad, harmful idea.
What?
This idea that women's rights, that whole idea goes against, just like people claiming that, there's racism against. Yeah, I mean, it's the idea about women's rights is directly against the ideas that I'm talking about. If
Do they
I'm
have
saying
to be
men are
mutually exclusive? Can we not have more rights for more people? Put women in the draft. Make the divorce rates, make the adoption or like the custody things equal. All these things could be met of raising the bar instead of trying to say like, no, these people should not have more. No, we should all have more. We should make better solutions instead of worrying about trying to fuck people over or trying to spend our time like just gnawing on each other's ankles. Like this, nobody is going to listen to just somebody just complaining, saying, "Oh, they're talking too much about those people. Nobody cares." No, find ways to bring up, show the problems that you're trying to propose here, show what's important, show why it's important, and move that forward. Because it's just biting ankles and turning people off. People are gonna see that kind of stuff and be like, "Oh, this guy, he's just bitter."
I think it's good to. I think we should put down ideas that are bad and harmful, and I don't see what's what issue you're encountering here. I have a couple of hypotheses as to why feminism exists. One of them is that it just exists so people can be sexist against men, and women can not feel guilty about it. Convincing them, consoling them with the fact that hey, they are the ones who are actually oppressed. Meanwhile, they oppress the men, so and they don't have to feel guilty about it. So that's one hypothesis as to why this thing exists. Another one is that maybe this is just an explanation. This is just an explanation for their failures, because if you would look at um, for lack of a better example, look at Nobel Prize winners, look at scientists, look at the politicians, look at um, the significant people in our civilization. All of those are men. So maybe this is just a cope. Maybe they're just coping with feminism. So that's another hypothesis. And
Maybe.
I have made, yeah, I have lots of them. That
Sure.
these are just the ones I remember off the top of my head. I have a long list of those. Yeah.
Let me ask you, Net. I think this is the last question I got to get in because I got to go to bed here soon.
Yeah. All right.
Do you spend more time talking about how nobody is talking, like how people are talking about the wrong thing, or do you spend more time talking about solutions to the things that you see problems with? Like for men.
The things that I'm talking about, these are not the things that we need solutions for. These are things that we need to be convinced of, that these things are a problem in the first place.
Do you spend more time
So, yeah.
talking about the men's problems, or do you spend more time complaining that people are talking about the women's problems?
Yeah, I don't keep track of that. Yeah, but I talk about both.
Cool.
It was nice talking to you.
Hey, you two, Net. I got really jazzed up here, and thanks for rolling with it and talking with me. I've had a big day.
Yeah, I mean, I
Apparently,
wasn't.
you
Yeah,
you got to
today.
be the end of the map, that momentum.
All right, all right. Today I didn't really think I was in my element today. Anyways, it was nice talking to you.
Can I ask
You
you one
too.
more question now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. If someone is being treated unfairly, should we have empathy for them?
Yes, we do. We should. Yes.
And this applies to
Alright.
anyone, and like any discrimination or any unfair treatment, no matter how big or small it is.
Yeah. Of course. Why not?
Okay. So
All right.
if someone was in favor of feminism and they thought that same thing, where would the disagreement come into place between you and this person?
That there is not really there isn't anything bad happening to women, for us to feel empathy for. That's what I would tell them.
So it boils down to an observation that you're making? You would make different observations? That would be the disagreement point?
Yeah, I don't know if observation is the right word. Maybe.
Okay. Like what you are witnessing in the world? That would be the disagreement point? Not that we shouldn't have this empathy, not that we shouldn't care about these people. It's
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah.
witnessing, what we're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. If you were to witness somebody being discriminated or treated unfairly on an individual basis, just a person, a friend, a random stranger on the street, it doesn't matter, whatever. You see them with your own eyes. If you see this person being treated unfairly and it happened to be a woman, would you have empathy for this woman?
Right now, in a perfect world, yes, I would. Right now, I'm pretty resentful and pretty bitter right now, and in a really awful mood right now. So right now, I wouldn't. In a perfect world, yeah.
Like tomorrow or the
No,
next
not even
day?
in a perfect world. I mean, not even in a perfect world, in a better world, yeah, I would have empathy for everybody. Right now, I'm not really gonna have empathy for women because, for the same reason, a black person might not really have empathy for a white person in the 1950s.
Hmm. You think that this black person should have empathy?
No, I think, if you're a black person in 1950s with Jim Crow and, everything, what about a black person during slavery? So, I think it's fair for them to not empathize with white people in that situation. And, for the same reason, it's fine for me to not feel empathy for women right now. Because in some countries, I could argue men are being held slaves. I would even go as far as to say it's fair for me to be misogynistic. Look at the situation in Ukraine and Russia. It's basically they have slaves over there. They have a sexist system of slavery. So yeah, it's even fair for me to not have empathy for women right now, or
For
to even
this
be a misogynist.
for this stranger that you met on the street, you never met them before, and you witnessed them being treated unfairly. I don't know. Maybe they were pushed into the street, fell over, scraped up their leg, broke their leg, whatever. It doesn't matter. Um, why not have empathy for them?
If it's a woman, I'm pretty resentful. I'm pretty bitter. I'm pretty bitter right now. I'm pretty hurt. So mentally,
Why for
and
that particular individual, that stranger?
yeah, because I just told you because I'm resentful and hurt. So
Hmm. If someone uh,
yeah,
was
I know
really
it's maybe
resentful,
it's not. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. You're saying that it's not the victim's fault. It's not the fault of that particular victim. Why am I taking it out on them? Well,
yeah,
it's not really, I don't really see it that way. I don't think I am the one who's taking it out on them. I think the people who are treating me badly, who are, making me overdose on these emotions, I think they are the ones responsible for that victim. I think they're the
are
ones responsible, not me.
are we responsible for our own emotions and actions?
In some situations, you're not responsible for your actions. If I put a gun, if I held you at gunpoint, are you really responsible? I mean, that's debatable. It's a debatable thing.
Okay. Is the situation just like that situation where it's like at gunpoint? Are they the same?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's similar because they're pushing me. They're pushing me emotionally, mentally. Just like they would be pushing a black person back then, mentally and emotionally, to not empathize with a white person, and even take out their bitterness and resentfulness on them.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it would be pretty justifiable. It would be a debatable thing to do.
I'd
And
like
I think
to.
most people would agree with it. Most people would agree with it. Here's the thing. Most people would be fine with it,
Hmm. I'd like to.
especially concerning racism.
Quick
Like
quick
to.
caveat on that scenario, real quick. If that person, if that woman who was unfairly treated in the street, agreed with your principles, agreed with what you're saying, and had the same mindset as you, would
Yeah,
that
then I would
change how you
empathize with
affected?
her. Yeah, that would change everything.
And do you think that the majority of human
No,
women,
no, I think the people who agree with me, I could count them on fingers, unfortunately.
hmm,
Yeah, yeah, I hope that changes, but yeah, I think, even if the woman agrees with me, I think if she's gonna agree with me, she also has to understand that, I have to, at the end of the day, practically, I have to guess. I can't just ask anyone. So I
yeah, how
just
would
have
you
to make a
know?
guess. Yeah, yeah. So that's a practical situation. I just have to guess, and if that results in something bad, I'm not the one who should be held responsible. It's the people who are pushing me, who made me like this. It's them who should be held responsible. And if the woman who agrees with me, the woman who agrees with me in your situation, in your scenario,
Mhm.
I think if she agrees with me, she would understand this. If I was in her if I was in her position, I would understand too.
Hmm.
Nat, I want you to imagine a hypothetical scenario about this hypothetical scenario. If yeah, I know. If you were this woman who was pushed into the street, broke her leg, whatever. If you were her, what kind of feelings do you think you would have at that moment?
Yes, I would feel something bad is happening to me, and the guy over there who can but is not helping me has a justifiable reason. And yeah, it's a shitty thing, and who's responsible for it? It's not that guy. That's what I would be thinking.
How much
Yeah,
would have
it's
to
an
change
unfortunate,
for that
you know,
scenario to change?
just to, yeah, I would like to put it concisely. I would say that, in that situation, I would be thinking that I'm in a shitty situation, and who's responsible for it? It's definitely the perpetrator, and it's also the that guy. You know, it's also that guy and whoever made him like that. Yeah, I guess I'm not really putting it more concisely and in a better way.
No, that's no
Forget
problem.
it. Yeah, forget it.
Um,
Forget it.
I, like I said, I could talk about this stuff for hours because I mean I do think it's important to talk about.
So could I.
I'm not. We weren't trying to blow you off by the questions we're asking. We're trying to talk about it. But
Yes, so am I.
how much would have to change for you to have empathy for that person? What in your lifetime could you see that would change the way that you view the situations of the women that you interact with, or the person on the
If
street,
I
the person
wasn't,
who's getting
yeah, if
yeah.
okay, yeah, if the world stopped subjecting me to injustices, then and to other people, I'm a pretty privileged person. Other people have it much. Other men have it much worse than me. If the world were to stop doing injustices to those people and to me, then yeah, I would start having empathy for that woman, for women in general.
Would you want to get to that point?
Yeah, that's why I'm talking to you right now to change minds.
What's the best strategy? What's the best message to tell others to get to that end result?
What's the best message? I don't know. I'm just, what I do. I just argue with people. That's what I do. I don't know. I don't have a best message in mind.
What if you like? I know you said a circumcision seemed to be very important to you. What if you told people the details about that and why that is such a bad thing? Do you think that might
Yeah,
help
that
you
I've tried
further?
that. Yeah, yeah, that people have done that. It doesn't really work. I don't know why. I guess the average person is really dumb, I guess. Yeah, that doesn't really that doesn't get me what I want.
Are you getting what you want by arguing with people? And is that furthering your
I don't
cause?
know. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. I think they should give me what I want.
I don't. I'm gonna be brutally honest with you here. I don't think your presentation, especially at the beginning, I don't think that's gonna win many people over.
Could you elaborate a bit, like my speech, my language, or my content? Or what are you talking about?
I'm kind of echoing what David said earlier. I think the best strategy for you would be to bring the focus on the inequality you see in men, the circumcision, the draft. I think you mentioned something else. Focus on those things. Bring those to the attention of people. Say, hey, here's what I'm witnessing. Here's why it's not that not a good thing, a bad thing, an awful thing. This is
I
how I feel
I
about
hope
it.
I hope you remember what I told him then. What do you think about that? I told
Um,
him that it's a bad idea and it's in direct opposition to my idea, and that's why I tackle it.
is it in direct opposition? What is direct opposition to like people being in favor of the draft and circumcision? What's the direct opposite of that?
Just yeah, take this as an example. If you were to ask a feminist or feminist adjacent people, obviously they're going to tell you that we live in a patriarchy and men have more advantages over women. So this whole feminism thing, it's really, do
We're
you now see
going.
how it's an
We're
opposition? I
again.
think you should see
You're
how.
going to just being upset about feminism. What is the direct opposite against the
I
draft
just
or
told you
circumcision? No, you just said that men
No.
have more privilege. That doesn't discuss the draft at all. That doesn't discuss
the
the.
draft implies that society is sexist against men, and so do you understand it? Do you understand now how it's in direct opposition? Yeah, because one side, with the
No.
draft, the people who talk about the draft, they're saying society is sexist against men, and feminist adjacent people are saying, yes, society gives privileges to men, and it's really
You're
sexist
talking
against
about
women. So I
math.
hope you.
No, you're saying that you're just talking about the in math result. The opposite position would be that only men should do the draft. It would be that only men or only women even, or there's no draft at all. Those are the opposing views of the current draft situation. And that's not inherent to feminism. That has to do with the draft. So that's what
So
I'm trying to say. You
gonna.
should be talking about the practical implications of how either the draft is
Sure.
not something that should be just
Sure.
for
I mean, if
men,
you
or
if you insist on going that route, sure. But let me remind you how popular the idea of white racism is. That's how popular the idea that women are oppressed should be. That's how
you,
popular it should be. So basically, not really popular.
we're not talking about the draft again. We're no longer talking about the draft again. So
Yeah,
do you
we were
think
not
women
talking
should
about the
also
draft.
be in the draft, or there should be no draft? Is that the answer?
That doesn't matter. I think that
That
there
would
should not
change the
be
math. That
sexism.
would change the end math, because if both women and men are in the draft, you're no longer using that as a number.
Yeah, if that happens, but that's not happening. So
Well,
I mean,
You want it to
I'm
happen,
missing
right?
your
you want
point.
it to happen.
Do you
Solve the
want that to
problem.
happen? Do you want men and women both to be in the draft or there be no draft? Is that what you desire?
Yeah, either of those things would erase the sexism. So yeah,
Fight
I'm fine
for
with either
it.
of those.
Do that.
Do
There's the
it.
problem. Fix that. Yeah.
Then okay, you guys are really missing my point. So I'm gonna make one easy one this last time. Do you know the first wave of you were talking about waves of feminism the first time at the beginning of the conversation. Did you know the first wave of feminism, the wave that you guys must be considering really pure and all, the good wave of
We've
feminism?
made no
Do you
comments
know?
about any of that.
Yeah, you didn't. I'm assuming you must really have good opinions of those, and you did mention waves of feminism. So did you know the first wave of feminism, the original feminists
We both
endorsed a male only draft. They were even endorsing a draft for children who were men, only for men, not for women, and they called themselves feminists. They called themselves uh, they said they were fighting for equal rights. They were the ones fighting for the right to vote, even though the right to vote was tied to whether or not one could participate in the military. They wanted the right to vote despite not joining the military, not having to join a draft. So, considering all of that, it's a really easy point. I hope you don't miss this one. What do you think?
I think it is
You have been
understandable that
yeah.
there are people who make propositions like you're saying. I get what you're saying, that there were people who made propositions that men should only be the ones who go to war. But if that is the problem, if you think that it's also should be females that get drafted, or that there should be no draft, that's the enemy of you. That's your enemy. That has nothing to do whether or not women have problems. That has to do with the draft.
Okay, what about people who think that society is sexist only against women and that men are privileged? What about those people? You must admit that that is in opposition to my ideas, right?
Any kind of
Okay.
grand sweeping thing that only a certain group can do wrong. I mean, you can make definitional claims all day.
Yes, I'm against
but
that. Yeah, I'm against that.
okay,
Whatever, I see a lot of those. Yeah, I see a lot of
sure.
that. And yeah,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
against. Yeah.
But I think the things that you're mostly mad at, well, one, because that denies there's any problems for you, which, I mean, the thing that you're describing is saying that they're ignoring all the problems of men and saying that there's only problems for women. You're saying the same thing. There's only problems for men and we're ignoring all the problems for women. We got to talk about the individual situations here and stop just trying to make this we win, they lose situation.
The reason, David, the reason I don't like what you're saying is because, because, if we replace sexism here with racism, people were treated really differently, and that's exactly how I want sexism to be treated. If you were to say the idea that America is racist against white people, that wouldn't be a really popular idea. You can have this idea that there is sexism against women, but that's how I want that idea to be seen. So that's why I'm against it, because I see people treating the racism thing, and I see that, hey, this is what fair treatment looks like. This is how people should treat this idea. And I look at sexism and people do not treat it that way, and I think that's wrong. Yeah,
I mean,
I look at it
I
and
hear you.
just intuitively know that's wrong.
I hear you. And I mean, this maybe can be pulled completely out of my ass in this, but to me, sorry, my computer keeps trying to update Photoshop. Why won't it stop? And then my camera battery died. It's one of those nights.
Sorry, David.
To me, it sounds like you keep fighting these grand sweeping like dispositions that, like it's either all or nothing. And these people who say it's all or nothing, of course, people who say it's all or nothing have problems because they don't they're not talking about situations, and it just becomes nuh-uh you, nuh-uh me, nuh-uh you. You talk about specific things. When you do this grand sweeping language, you're sounding just like them. Like if today David here would met to you and a feminist who you're describing, who is just like so broadly speaking, I mean, he would hear the same kind of rhetoric. I really think these important things that you're trying to describe, I want you to focus on finding the things that you want and how they can happen, not just because, I mean, people, when you start off just saying like, you guys are dumb for thinking this, you're spending all the time just talking to a defensive person. I mean, you're just spending all the time dealing with pride. You're dealing with people's their
ego, their pride.
It's part of their identity in a lot of ways. You want to talk about the thing, like the actual ideas, the circumstances, because just talking about like whether or not somebody is honest or whether or not they're logical, you end up feeling like I felt whenever like how you felt whenever I started getting carried away earlier.
Yeah, I know that what you're saying. This is something that I have been really introspecting on. That I maybe just the reason I never see people getting convinced in debates, and I don't think I've ever convinced anybody, because I just hurt their ego and their pride. And I just don't know what, I just don't know what to do. I see people, um, they're political activists. I just see these people who are into politics, and they really consider the things they talk about. They consider it really severe. They take it really severely, and that's how I want my idea to be taken. You earlier you said you agreed with me. That's not really what I'm concerned with. What I'm concerned with is you taking my ideas really really severely. You should consider my issues that I talk about really severely. That's what I want. And I see this everywhere. I
Well,
see
I
this
mean,
happening everywhere
we
else.
had to
Yeah, and
spend
I just
20
don't know what to do
minutes.
about it.
We had to spend 20 minutes like worrying that you were trying to like undercut us and like make us say something like catch us like, oh, what do you think of sexism? Like, oh, don't you think that this is an injustice? Like you trying to trap me for like 20 minutes before I
Well,
could even
it
get
was
to
a
the things that you
mixture.
want to change,
Yeah.
to the things that you want to happen, the things that you care about, the actual things you care about, the things that you want and care about. That's what you need to figure out how you can, because there's a million like people on the internet complaining about feminism. It's just reality TV at this point. If you want to make
Yeah.
legitimate change, you're going to have to like start focusing on solutions. You're going to have to start focusing on like the things that you actually want to happen, instead of just complaining about what people are doing or how dumb people might look.
I can't decide what's more effective. I can't decide what's more effective. To dunk on someone publicly. So everybody else is just too afraid to have that opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Is that more effective, or if is something else more effective, like being nice to people and convincing them, taking baby steps or something?
It's honestly, it's hard to say. I think sometimes dunking works in some ways. I'll be honest. I'm optimistic that that the more actual in-depth conversations, that the dealing with the thoughts and motivations, how we come to know what we know, the not the working
Yeah, and
together towards
also
understanding versus trying to
yeah,
win an argument. I
I get
think
you.
that goes a lot further to me. Like I feel like
Ye-
people are more convinced that way, but I mean, that I could be a blind optimist. Who cares? I'm gonna try anyways.
Yeah, and also a lot of the reason a lot of people gravitate towards the former is because they just want to be good at debates.
Mm-hmm.
It's also something they're interested in, to
Yeah.
just be good at debates. So
Oh yeah,
that's
it's a
why
little
also they
dopamine hit.
gravitate towards that.
I find myself getting caught
Yeah,
up in it all the time. As you saw, like I got a little heated there um at one point, and I get it. Like it's a little dopamine rush. I mean, it's like a game in a lot of ways. Debate is. It's you can win, so to speak. But if your goal is to convince other people, I don't think it's as much convincing. It might make people ashamed of their beliefs, but I don't think it changes their mind.
yeah. When I said I want to change their minds, I just meant that I want what I want, and it's not really to. I guess you could say it's not really to change minds. That's just a vehicle to get what I want.
To get
That's
what
What do
you
you
just a
want?
want, would you have to change people's minds? Like, would you have to change people's
Yeah,
behaviors?
that would be one way. Yeah, that would be one way to get what I want. I could also shame them into behaving a certain way. That could also, I could also get what I want that way.
Isn't that what you say that feminists are doing to men, trying to shame them? Do you feel as that's convincing you?
They can shame me all I want. That's okay. If you dunk on me, at the end of the day, I'm just gonna look at it from a logical perspective. And shaming people and dunking on them, that's fine. The difference is that they are wrong and I am not. That's the difference.
Are they
That's what
feeling the same
justifies
way?
me.
Are they feeling the
Yeah, they
same way?
feel. Yeah, they feel the same way, but objectively speaking, they're not, and that's what makes the difference.
Doesn't sound very effective.
Yeah,
Does it?
just sounds like masturbating.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be. Yeah, I'm trying not to be effective right now. I'm trying to be right now.
Why? For fun?
No, it's just
Because I thought you said
it's just a roll of dice.
to get what you want, you need it to be effective. Because you need to change minds to get what you want, whether or not you care if the minds are changed. You want
If I was
the
in
world
your place,
different.
I would have had my mind changed. If I was in your place, I would have my mind changed.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you meant on that.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm saying that if I was in your place, I would have my mind changed.
Hmm.
So I think what I'm saying right now makes perfect sense for me to say.
Well,
And I'm just maybe it not every day I wanna fight a fucking revolution. Maybe just today I just
yeah,
wanna
I
speak
get
my
it.
mind. Yeah, maybe
Oh
just
yeah, I
today I
get
just wanna
that.
speak my mind. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, yeah, I get that. But if you've got the adamant feeling, if you've got the visceral and you've got the ability intact, I mean, why not make a sniper, like a focus shot, then just spray and pray and whatever, you know what I'm saying? So anyways,
Yeah.
Thanks for
Anything
talking to
else?
us.
All right.
I
It
don't-
was nice talking.
yeah.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, Nat. You have a good night. Thanks for going through the long haul with us. I know it was a little unconventional.
What screen do I want?
Well, I'm up much later than I expected.
I
But
don't
it's
have a
all
screen
right.
for us for our ending here. It's just going to be
Okay.
me. Anyway,
All right.
well, I think we should end on a joke. Should we end on a joke?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is the Easter Bunny's favorite restaurant?
Oh no.
This is a good one.
What is
This is a good one.
Let's hear it. What is it?
IHOP.
Good night.
That was a good one. All right, Taylor. The link for the after show, that'd be right now. If you could, please. So
Thank
what Taylor's
you.
doing is he's dropping the after show link. That's where I'll be. It sounds like David's going to bed, so I don't know if he's going to be there.
I
You gonna be
might
there,
for a
David?
little bit. Let me
Okay.
check my phone.
Same for me. It's getting awfully late. So it's the tiny URL. That is the one. He's putting on YouTube too, in case any of you guys want to come hang out. People in Discord, there it is. But with that being said, David, do you have anything left to say before I roll that outro?
Anybody in the audience? No.
No?
Cool.
All right. Well, that's Pierce out then.
Oh.